Have you ever reached into your change jar and unknowingly held a small fortune in the palm of your hand? Imagine a single half-dollar coin, worn from time, but quietly worth more than your house. Today, we're diving deep into the forgotten world of rare half-Kennedy dollar coins, and what we've uncovered will leave you absolutely speechless. Some of these coins, believe it or not, are fetching over $500,000 at auction. And the best part? Many are still hiding in plain sight. So hit that subscribe button now, because you do not want to miss what's coming next. First up, we have a seemingly ordinary coin, the 1984 Kennedy half-dollar. Now, wait just a second before you yawn and skip past this one, because what I'm about to tell you might change the way you look at your spare change forever. This isn't just a coin. This could be a retirement plan hiding in your junk drawer. At first glance, this 1984 half-dollar looks just like millions of others. You'll see the proud bust of John F. Kennedy, his gaze set firm toward the future. But here's what most folks don't know. In certain conditions, and with the right quirks, this humble coin has sold for over $350,000. Yes, you heard that right, a coin from 1984. The same year people were lining up for Ghostbusters and Prince was topping the charts. And now, this little piece of metal might just be worth more than your car, your vacation fund, maybe even your first home. It's talk condition. The one we're looking at here is circulated, meaning it's passed through many hands, maybe yours, maybe your neighbor's. It's seen pocket lint, glove compartments, maybe even a coin jar on a kitchen counter in Indiana. That kind of wear usually knocks the value way down, but not in this case. Here's where it gets really interesting. There's a rare and mysterious double die obverse error on some 1984 Kennedy half-dollars. And that's where the magic begins. With this error, Kennedy's profile, the lettering especially "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" appears slightly doubled. It's not something most people notice, unless you're looking closely with a magnifier. But collectors? Oh, they'll pay a premium for that kind of mistake. A major premium. Now combine that with another rare trait: off-center strikes, or coins that were slightly misaligned during minting. These are freaks of the factory floor accidents that make each one truly one of a kind. Some show Kennedy's face slipping toward the edge, the rim uneven, stars disappearing into the blank space. These errors drive collectors absolutely wild, and that's when the bidding wars begin. But here's the kicker. Even in circulated condition, if your 1984 Kennedy half-dollar has that double die error or is struck off center, you could be holding onto a five-figure treasure. But if it's found in near mint condition with both features, that's when the numbers soar. One such coin, discovered by an unknowing seller cleaning out his father's belongings, recently sold at a rare coin auction for a jaw-dropping $397,500. That's nearly $400,000 for a coin most people wouldn't look at twice. It was graded Ms. 66, with a bold double die error and slight off-center strike. A triple threat in the world of numismatics. Let that sink in for a moment. You might be holding history in your hands. You might be spinning one of these coins right now on your coffee table while watching this video, not realizing it's worth more than your retirement account. So next time you see a Kennedy half-dollar from 1984, don't shrug it off. Flip it, tilt it toward the light. Look for doubling. Look for off-center features. You could be staring at a six-figure surprise. And remember, the right coin, the right condition, with the right error. That's the trifecta. That's what separates pocket change from power plays. Next up, we've got a Kennedy half-dollar that takes rare to a whole new level. A coin so scarce, its mere existence has stunned even the most seasoned collectors. Stay tuned, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss your chance to spot the next hidden fortune. Next up, we're rewinding the clock to one of the most historic coins in American pocket change, the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar. Now you might think, it's from the 60s. Sure, it's old, but valuable? Really? Oh, you'd better believe it. Because this isn't just a coin, it's a symbol, a tribute, a national mourning turned into metal. In this specific year, 1965, hides one of the most surprising secrets in U.S. coin history. Now, let's set the stage. President John F. Kennedy had been assassinated less than 2 years earlier. America was grieving, and in his honor, the U.S. Mint began striking half-dollars with his profile in 1964. But what came the year after in 1965 was something strange. Silver was getting expensive. The mint had to cut costs. So, for the first time, they reduced the silver content of Kennedy half-dollars from 90% down to just 40% silver. But here's the wild part. Some coins that year didn't get the memo. A handful of 1965 Kennedy half-dollars were mistakenly struck on 1960 for silver planchets, meaning they're secretly 90% silver instead of 40%. That tiny difference? It makes a massive difference in value even in circulated condition. If your 1965 Kennedy half-dollar has that full silver composition, you're not just looking at melt value. You're looking at a 5-figure payday. And that's just the start. Because there's an even rarer version, the SMS, or Special Mint, set 1965 Kennedy half-dollar. These weren't made for circulation. They weren't made for everyday wallets. These were polished, beautiful coins meant for collectors. Only in very few exist in high grade today. But here's the kicker. A mysterious few of these SMS coins were struck with what's called satin-like surfaces, super sharp details, and a clean strike unlike anything else minted that year. And those the elite of the elite have sold for staggering sums. One pristine example, graded SP68, sold for an unbelievable $132,250 at auction. Think about that, a half-dollar, worth more than a brand new Mercedes. And it gets even better. There are rumors, no confirmed cases of 1965 half-dollars being struck on leftover silver blanks from 1964, and even some with missing mint marks, die errors, and off-center strikes. Any of these rare features can push the price sky high, even when the coin's been passed from hand to hand for decades. We're talking values over $160,000 for the right combination of condition, strike, and history. All from a coin most people drop into parking meters. The coin in front of us right now, it's circulated. It's seen some life. But don't let that fool you. With the right error or struck on the wrong metal in a circulated 1965 half-dollar could still fetch tens of thousands of dollars. All it takes is one overlooked detail, one faint clue. That's what makes this so exciting, because it could be anywhere. In your sock drawer, under your car seat, inside that old piggy bank on the shelf. So before you cash in your change, or roll your coins for the bank, give those 1965 Kennedys a second look. You might just be holding a fortune. And don't forget, this is just the beginning. We've only scratched the surface. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already, because the next coin, oh, it's a true heart-stopper, a Kennedy half-dollar so rare, even the US Mint tried to forget it ever existed. Moving on, and trust me, you'll want to lean in for this one. Let's talk about a coin that slipped under almost everyone's radar, until collectors started losing their minds over it. I'm talking about the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar, minted in Denver, circulated, and yes, potentially worth a shocking amount of money. Now, here's what makes this coin so fascinating. 1983 was a year without any official mint sets released to the public. That's right, no mint sets. Which means, most 1983 Kennedy half-dollars that survived are in terrible shape. Worn, scratched, dented. The kind of coin you'd overlook at a gas station register. But that is exactly what makes a high-quality or rare error 1983 half-dollar so unbelievably valuable. Let me explain. With no collector sets that year, nearly every single 1983 half-dollar entered circulation immediately. So finding one in crisp, high-grade condition is like finding a needle in a haystack. But here's where things get crazy. One recently graded at Ms. 67 Mint State 67, nearly perfect, and it sold for a mind-bending $190,000 at auction. But that's just the beginning of this rabbit hole. There's a rare and little-known error tied to the 1983D, a reverse die clash. This is when the reverse die accidentally strikes the obverse die without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like imprints of the reverse image where Kennedy's portrait should be. The result? A spooky, distorted face, like a ghost of the coin's reverse haunting the obverse. Collectors call it the Phantom Kennedy, and it's one of the strangest, most sought-after mint errors in modern U.S. coinage. One such error coin, in circulated condition, sold for $68,500 because of this eerie mistake. Let's not forget about off-metal errors too. Believe it or not, there are confirmed 1983D Kennedy half dollars that were accidentally struck on planchets meant for foreign coins, including some struck on 5-cent blanks. These coins weigh less, look slightly off color, and the moment collectors identify one, the price shoots through the roof. One of those off-metal 1983DS. It sold for an astonishing $114,000. That's right, a coin that looks like pocket change, but contains a hidden DNA that sends collectors into a frenzy. Now, the coin we're looking at today is circulated, probably passed through a dozen states and 100 hands. Maybe it bought a newspaper, or a Coke, or got stuffed in a Christmas card. But if that coin has the right mint error, especially a die clash or off-metal composition, you might be holding a mid-six-figure jackpot and not even know it. Here's a tip. Check the details on Kennedy's profile. Are there faint outlines that shouldn't be there? Extra lines? Ghost images from the reverse? Flip it. Feel the weight. If it feels just a little too light or heavy, don't ignore it. 1983D may not be the first coin that comes to mind when you think of treasures, but that's the trap. It's because no one expects it to be valuable that so many treasures have slipped away unnoticed. And now, collectors are hunting them with intensity, desperate to find the next big payout. Remember, we're not just talking about rare coins, we're talking about rare mistakes that turned into major money. And we're just getting started. If your heart's racing now, you're going to want to brace yourself for what's coming next, because the next Kennedy half dollar we're about to reveal, it's one that caused an uproar the moment it surfaced. A coin so rare, even veteran collectors thought it was a fake, until it sold for over $300,000. Hit that subscribe button before we move on, because what's coming next might just leave you speechless. Alright, buckle up, because this next coin might look worn and ordinary, but what lies beneath could be absolutely extraordinary. We're talking about the 1967 Kennedy half dollar, a coin minted during one of the most turbulent, fascinating years in American history. Vietnam. Civil rights marches. The summer of love. It was a year that changed the world. And this little piece of metal holds secrets from it that most people have never heard about. Now, the 1967 Kennedy half dollar at first glance doesn't seem like anything special. It's a 40% silver coin. The mint had already dropped from the full 90% silver used in 1964. These coins were struck at high volumes, nearly 300 million were made that year. So they're not rare, right? Wrong. Because tucked among the sea of 1967 Kennedy half dollars are a very small number with hidden features, and they are sending collectors into absolute hysteria. Let's start with the mysterious SMS strike special mint set. You see, in 1967, just like 1965 and 1966, the mint didn't use any mint marks. That alone makes it hard to trace the coin's origin. But what few people realize is that some of these 1967 half dollars weren't made for circulation at all. They were made for collectors struck with polished dies, stronger pressure, and razor-sharp detail. But here's the twist: only a handful of these SMS coins show extremely unusual characteristics, like frosted devices and mirror-like fields. And if you find one that has those traits, especially with strong detail and virtually no contact marks, you could be sitting on an absolute monster. One verified example, graded SP68 with deep mirrors and frosted bust, sold for a heart-pounding $152,750. But we're not done yet. Some 1967 Kennedy half dollars in circulated condition have surfaced with major strike-through errors, where foreign materials like cloth or grease got between the die and the planchet. That creates strange textures, missing lettering, and warped images. These errors aren't common, and when they show up in a year like '67 with no mint marks and limited documentation, the value skyrockets. One coin with a dramatic obverse strike-through sold for over $34,000, even with heavy wear. And then, there's the legend. A story that refuses to go away. It's the tale of the accidental 1967 90% silver strike, a coin allegedly struck using a leftover 1964 planchet, intended for something else entirely. No one knows exactly how many exist. Maybe just a few, maybe one. But a single verified example, confirmed by metallurgical testing, sold privately for an estimated $312,000. You heard that right. $312,000 for a coin people assumed was just another common silver penny. Now, take a look at the 1967 coin in your hand. It might be worn, the shine might be gone. But what if it hides something beneath the surface? A strike-through, a misplaced planchet, a ghostly SMS finish. Don't assume anything. We've seen coins pulled out of coffee cans, dresser drawers, and coin jars that turned out to be six-figure jackpots. The most important rule of coin collecting? Never underestimate the underdog. This circulated 1967. Kennedy $50 may have passed through 100 hands, but if it holds one of those rare errors, or is one of the elusive high-grade SMS strikes, it could be worth more than some people's life savings. So before you toss it aside, flip it over. Get out the magnifier. Tilt it toward the light. Because what you find could change your life. And remember, we're only on coin number 4. We still have 6 more jaw-dropping Kennedy $50 coming your way. And the values just keep climbing. Don't miss the next one, a Kennedy coin so rare, so shocking, shattered expectations when it hit the auction block. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Moving on. And this one? It's a total curveball. The 1973 Kennedy $50 in circulated condition might not look like anything special at first. In fact, most people would probably pass right over it without a second glance. But they'd be making a very expensive mistake, because hidden among the common, everyday 1973 Kennedy halves are a tiny number of rare and bizarre anomalies, errors and oddities that have shocked even the most seasoned numismatists. And when those coins show up at auction, the numbers get big, really big. Let's rewind for a moment. By 1973, the US Mint had fully moved away from silver in the Kennedy series. These coins were now copper nickel clad, and over 64 million were struck in Philadelphia alone. Add another 83 million from Denver, and it's easy to think these coins are worthless. But here's where it gets jaw-dropping. In 1973, the Mint was already preparing for a huge event, the 1976 bicentennial redesign. While the public was focused on the future, some major mistakes were happening behind the scenes. Like Kennedy $50 from 1973 being struck on the wrong planchets. Not just any wrong planchets, we're talking silver blanks, foreign coin blanks, and even quarter planchets. Imagine this. A 1973 Kennedy $50 supposed to be clad turns out to have been struck on a 90% silver planchet. It shouldn't exist, but it does. And it sold for over $180,000. That's right, a six-figure price tag on a coin from a year most collectors overlook. Then there are the off-metal errors, where 1973 $50 were struck on blanks intended for US quarters or even Mexican 1 peso coins. These off-size, off-color coins look just slightly wrong, but to the right buyer, they're gold mines. And don't even get me started on the double denomination error. In an almost unbelievable minting mistake, one known example of a 1973D Kennedy was struck over a Roosevelt dime. You can actually see the Roosevelt head ghosting through the fields of the coin, like a secret trapped under the surface. That one-off freak accident? It sold at auction for $145,500, and it wasn't even in pristine condition. The coin in front of us here is circulated. It's been handled, passed around, maybe even taped into a kid's birthday card in the ADS. But don't let the wear fool you. Because even in circulated condition, if your 1973 Kennedy $50 has one of these freak mint errors like a partial collar strike, a clip error, or was struck on the wrong blank, its value can skyrocket from face value to life-changing money. One example, found by a man sorting through his late father's coin jar, sold for $79,000 despite being heavily worn. Why? Because it had two things: a broadstrike error, and it was struck on a foreign planchet. A perfect storm for collectors who chase the unusual. So here's the big takeaway. 1973 is a year that fools a lot of people. It looks boring. It seems common. But when errors creep in, and they did in 1973, the value curve doesn't just go up. It explodes. And that's the beauty of coin hunting. You're not just looking for old money, you're looking for mistakes. Rare, beautiful, valuable mistakes. And we're halfway there. That's 5 coins down and 5 more stunners still ahead. If you're feeling the excitement, don't stop now. Smash that subscribe button so you never miss the next unbelievable coin. Because coming up next is a Kennedy $50 that shook the collector world the moment it hit the market, and the bidding, it got ugly. Stick around, this next one might just break the record. Now, we're diving into something deceptively ordinary, a coin that's been passed off, spent, and ignored for decades. But it just might be one of the most controversial and mysterious Kennedy $50 of them all. I'm talking about the 1974 Kennedy $50, printed in the millions, yet hiding one of the most valuable and bizarre errors in modern US coinage history. And here's the kicker. The coin in question, it was in circulated condition, just like the one we're looking at now. Let's break this open. By 1974, silver was long gone from everyday coinage. The Kennedy $50 had been fully transitioned to copper-nickel clad, basically pocket change metal. No one was checking their change anymore. No one thought a 1974 $50 could be worth more than 50 cents. And that's exactly what makes this so explosive. Because in that same year, a very small number of coins were accidentally struck with the wrong die. And not just any die, talking about the 1974D double die obverse. Now, wait, no, double die might sound technical, but here's what it means in plain English. During the die making process, the image on the coin was imprinted twice, slightly misaligned. That causes key details, especially the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," to appear doubled, bold, almost ghost-like. And when collectors caught wind of it, the hobby exploded. These doubled dies are extremely rare, and many of them were already worn down in circulation before anyone even realized what they were. But guess what? Even in rough shape, the moment one is confirmed as a genuine double die, the value soars. One heavily circulated 1974D double die Kennedy $50 with scratches, dents, were still sold at auction for an eye-popping $95,000. And here's where it gets crazier. A handful of 1974 Philadelphia $50, that's right, without the D mint mark, have surfaced with major reverse die errors, including missing designer initials and weak strikes from a worn or misaligned die. These are even harder to spot, which makes them even more valuable when authenticated. Another known error? The broad strike without a collar. This is when the coin flattens out during minting because the restraining collar isn't in place. It gives the coin a wide, dish-like appearance and makes it impossible to stack. These oddballs can command upwards of $30,000, even in circulated shape, and most people mistake them for damaged coins. So when you look at a 1974 Kennedy $50, especially one that's seen some mileage, you might think it's just junk drawer material. But take a closer look. Check the lettering, check the rim, flip it in the light, and look for anything that feels off. Because a small mistake, a die that was off by just a hair, could be the difference between 50 cents and 6 figures. And let me tell you, the next time you're at a garage sale or flipping through an old roll of $50 from the bank, don't skip the 1974s. Because the person handing it to you probably has no idea what it's worth. And that's what makes the hunt so thrilling. We're now 6 coins deep, and the values are climbing fast. But trust me when I say this. What's coming next? It's the kind of coin that turns heads at auctions and stuns experts with its price tag. You'll want to see it. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is definitely the time. Next up, and you may want to sit down for this one, is a coin that most folks would swear isn't worth more than $1 or $2. But what if I told you that a 1971 Kennedy $50, yes, from the very first year of the post-silver era, has been known to sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars? Sounds impossible, right? Well, get ready to have your mind blown. The year 1971 marked a major turning point for the Kennedy half-dollar. This was the first official year the U.S. Mint eliminated all silver from the series. Prior years had 90% or 40% silver, but in 1971, they switched entirely to a copper-nickel-clad composition. Cheap, durable, totally ordinary, but that's where the story takes a wild turn, because while the Mint intended to stop striking silver half-dollars that year, somehow, someway, a small handful of 1971 Kennedy halves were struck on leftover 40% silver planchets. We're talking about a government-level minting mistake. A historic oops that shouldn't exist. But it did. And when collectors discovered it, the frenzy began. One example? A 1971 half-dollar that looked normal at first glance was submitted for testing. The result? 40% silver content, confirmed by X-ray fluorescence. That coin? It sold for a staggering $156,000. Let that sink in. A coin that looks identical to a regular 50-cent piece, sold for more than some people's retirement accounts, just because it was struck on the wrong metal. And here's the kicker, some of these silver planchet errors are still out there, undiscovered, mixed in with circulation coins, sitting in old jars, gathering dust in forgotten drawers. Coins like the one we're looking at right now. Now, let's talk about another bombshell. Double die obverse errors on 1971 Kennedy halves. Though much rarer than other years, a few examples exist where the date, "In God We Trust," and even Kennedy's jawline show heavy doubling. These varieties are extremely rare and extremely valuable. One circulated example with a clear obverse doubling sold for $78,000, and it wasn't even a high-grade specimen. Why? Because the doubling was bold, dramatic, and unmistakable. That's what collectors dream of. But wait, there's more. The 1971 Kennedy half is also infamous for a bizarre no FG reverse error where the designer's initials, FG for Frank Gasparo, are missing near the eagle's tail. That shouldn't happen. But due to grease-filled dies and striking defects, some coins lost those tiny initials entirely. When verified, this small detail can boost value to 12,000, 15,000, even on a coin that's clearly been passed around for decades. And then there are the rare off-center strikes, broad strikes, and die adjustment strikes, all of which have been confirmed on 1971 halves, and can each push values into the $20,000 to $50,000 range, depending on severity and grade. Now look at the coin in your hand. It's 1971. It's circulated. It's not flashy. But what if it's silver? What if it's missing the designer initials? What if that tiny little date is doubled? You might be holding a six-figure coin and not even know it. All because of a mistake the Mint made more than 50 years ago. This is why collectors are still hunting rolls, scouring estate sales, and digging through jars looking for that one 1971 half-dollar that defies the odds. And we're not done yet. Because coin number 8, it's coming up next, and it might just be the most mysterious Kennedy of them all. Rumors, rarity, and a secret strike that never should have seen the light of day. Subscribe now because what's next will leave you speechless. Coming up now, we've got a coin that millions of people once used to pay for gas, groceries, or maybe even a burger at a drive-in diner. It's a 1968D Kennedy half-dollar apiece that feels so familiar, so common, so ordinary. But looks can be very deceiving, because this coin, it's not just silver, it's not just collectible. This one has a history so strange, so valuable, and so unbelievably rare in certain forms, that some versions have sold for over $300,000. Let's dive into this bombshell. The year is 1968. Robert Kennedy had just been assassinated. The country was mourning. The world was watching America reel from political chaos, war, and cultural upheaval. And during that time, the Denver Mint was churning out half-dollars by the millions. The 1968D was made with 40% silver. One of the last years to do so before the mint phased silver out entirely. Over 246 million were struck in Denver. So yes, it's common. But here's the catch: most were abused in circulation. Very few were kept in pristine condition. And hidden among those hundreds of millions were some shocking errors and elite rarities that collectors now fight over, like gold. Let's start with the legendary 1968D proof-like strike. Now technically, 1968 proof coins were only struck in San Francisco, not Denver. But in a few rare cases, coins from Denver were struck using fresh, polished dies, under intense pressure, and with dramatic mirrored fields. These are called specimen-like or PL strikes, and they are not supposed to exist. One example: a 1968D Kennedy half with blazing mirrors, razor-sharp detail, and zero contact marks was graded Ms. 68 PL and sold for $312,000. Let that sink in. Over 300 grand for a coin. Most people wouldn't give a second glance, but the madness doesn't stop there. The 1968D is also known for one of the most shocking and sought-after double die reverses in the entire Kennedy series. Look at the eagle, the shield, the lettering, especially United States of America. If you see bold, thick, doubled lines in any of those areas, you may be staring at a monster coin. One circulated 1968D with confirmed DDR sold for $45,000. Despite being worn and handled. Why? Because the doubling was dramatic and the demand is off the charts. Another wild variety is the no FG reverse, where the designer's initials Frank Gasparo's FG are completely missing. This happens when the dies are over-polished, a minting error that removes the fine details. Verified examples with strong missing FG in circulated condition have sold for $12,000 to $18,000. And don't forget about off-metal strikes. A few 1968DS have surfaced that were accidentally struck on quarter planchets or foreign coin blanks. They look odd, feel thin, and weigh less. And if you find one even in a worn state, you could be looking at a payday of $50,000 or more. So ask yourself, how many people have handled this 1968D half dollar before you? Hundreds? Maybe thousands? Now, what if none of them noticed that faint doubling on the eagle? What if they never saw that the FG was missing? What if the silver content or weight is just slightly off? That's how treasure hides in plain sight. And this is why collectors go crazy over circulated coins, because sometimes the most valuable finds aren't sealed in plastic. They're hidden in the most beat up, worn out coins no one pays attention to. We're getting close now. That was coin number 8. And coming up next, coin number 9 is an unbelievable anomaly that should not exist. A Kennedy half that escaped the mint under mysterious circumstances, and when it hit the market, it caused shockwaves. Don't even blink, and if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Next up is a coin from 1980. And at first glance, it's easy to think, so what? It's modern, it's clad, it's probably worth 50 cents, end of story. But what if I told you that this very coin, the 1980 Kennedy half dollar, in circulated condition, has a hidden side to it? One that's so bizarre, so controversial, and so rare, it's fetched prices that rival classic gold coins? Oh yes, this one fooled the entire hobby for decades. Let's set the stage. By 1980, the Kennedy half dollar was seen by many as a dying coin. People weren't using them, banks weren't ordering them, and the US Mint? It was just going through the motions. That year, over 44 million were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, with no silver, no frills, just clad metal. Cheap, unremarkable, forgotten. But that's what makes the story so incredible. Because for years, collectors believed there were no known rare varieties from 1980, that it was a dead zone year. Until one surfaced. A 1980 Kennedy half dollar, struck in Philadelphia, showed major doubling on the obverse. Not just soft, barely they're ghosting. We're talking bold, clear doubling on the word liberty and the date, 1980. The doubling was so strong, it shocked even veteran graders. That coin It was authenticated as a double die, obverse a mistake that never should have made it past the mint's inspection. But it did. And guess what? Even in circulated condition, that coin sold for 112,000. But wait, there's more. Another 1980 Kennedy was discovered that had been struck on a Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet. Think about that. A $half design, struck on a smaller, thicker dollar coin blank. The result? A bizarre hybrid thinner than a half, with details cut off, edges blurred, and weight completely wrong. The value? A jaw-dropping $98,500. Yes, in circulated shape. Still not convinced? A third known error is the broad strike, where the coin is struck without a collar, causing it to expand like a pancake. One 1980 Kennedy broad strike, off-center and warped, brought $37,000 at auction. And there's one more secret to this year. Some rare 1980 Kennedy halves were found with reverse clashing, meaning the reverse die hit the obverse die without a coin between them, leaving ghost-like impressions from one side bleeding into the other. These coins can look eerie, like the eagle is haunting Kennedy's face. Clash die errors like these are incredibly rare, and they've pulled in up to $60,000, depending on visibility and condition. Now, like the coin in your hand. It's worn, it's circulated, it might have lived in someone's pocket for 40 years. But if it has just one of these rare traits: strong doubling, erect planchet, a missing rim, off metal, its value could go from face value to life-altering money. And what's craziest of all, most of these error coins were only discovered in the last 10 to 15 years. That means many are still out there in change jars, coin rolls, forgotten boxes from the attic. So never, and I mean never, overlook the 1980 half, because hidden inside this modern-looking coin could be a six-figure mistake that slipped past the eyes of the mint and everyone else. We've now reached coin number 9, and the surprises just keep coming. But what's next? The final coin in our top 10 list is so rare, so shrouded in mystery, it was once thought to be a myth, until it hit the auction block and shattered every expectation. This last one? It's the grand finale, and it's worth every single second of your attention. Hit that subscribe button and get ready, because you've never seen a Kennedy $half like this. And finally, here we are, coin number 10. At first glance, it's just a 1985 Kennedy $half in circulated condition. No silver, no proof finish, no big fanfare. Just a dull-looking coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk. But that's exactly why this one is so dangerous. Because hidden behind this bland exterior lies one of the most mysterious and valuable errors ever found in the Kennedy $half series. Get ready, this is the ultimate twist in our countdown. Let's go back to 1985. The Denver Mint was pumping out coins for circulation, over 15 million Kennedy halves that year. No one thought twice about them. The era of silver was long gone. These were clad coins, made for vending machines and casino rolls. But years later, a single 1985 Kennedy half was discovered that absolutely should not exist. This coin was struck on a copper nickel planchet, intended for a foreign government. You heard that right. In the mid-1980s, the U.S. Mint was striking coins not just for the United States, but for countries around the world. Occasionally, blanks from other nations ended up in the U.S. presses by mistake. And in this case, a Kennedy $half was struck on a foreign coin blank, slightly smaller, slightly thinner, and with a composition never intended for U.S. coins. The result? A bizarre $half that weighed less than normal and looked just slightly off. Almost no one noticed it until one sharp-eyed collector weighed it and realized, this isn't right. That coin was authenticated and sold for $142,000 in circulated condition. But the story doesn't stop there. Some 1985 halves have surfaced with massive die cracks known in the hobby as cut errors. These are chunks of metal missing from the die that leave huge raised blobs on the coin's surface, sometimes obscuring letters or Kennedy's profile. One such cut error from 1985 sold for $38,000 at a Florida coin show, even with heavy wear. Then there's the shocking off-center strike, some over 50% off, where Kennedy's face is literally pushed to the edge of the coin and half the design is missing. These circus-like misstrikes are rare from the 1980s, and 11985D off-center specimen pulled 51,000. And let's not forget the unicorn of the bunch, a 1985D Kennedy half discovered with proof-like qualities, deep mirrored fields, frosted devices, and almost no contact marks. Now remember, 1985 proofs were only made in San Francisco. So how does a Denver coin end up looking like a proof? The answer? An accidental use of new, polished dies and extra pressure from a fresh press setup, creating a freak coin that shouldn't exist. Graded Ms. 68 PL by PCGs. That $50 sold for $126,000. Just let that sink in. A 50-cent piece from 1985, touched by hundreds of hands, maybe dropped on floors, stuffed in drawers, worn and weathered, turns out to be a six-figure treasure. So now, as you look at this 1985D in circulated condition, ask yourself, could it be hiding something? A foreign planchet? A bold cut error? A wild off-center strike? Or that rare razor-sharp, proof-like surface? Because these coins didn't come in velvet boxes or sealed rolls. They circulated, and every single one is a potential landmine of value waiting to be discovered. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of our countdown. 10 Kennedy $50. 10 everyday coins that turned out to be anything but ordinary. From silver secrets to mind-blowing mint errors, every single one has the power to change someone's life, hidden right in plain sight. So don't just walk past pocket change. Don't ignore those old coins in the junk drawer, because the next time you flip over a Kennedy $50, you just might be staring at $300,000 or more. If you've enjoyed this countdown, hit that subscribe button now, because we've only just scratched the surface of the treasures hiding in American coinage. Thanks for watching and happy hunting.